Hello. If you're interested in learning more about my game, you should tune in to the WASD and Beyond podcast. Be there or despair.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the WASD and Beyond podcast. We're your hosts, Nick and Brody, and this week we have an awesome guest all the way from jolly old England. Right? You are in England right now, right?
I am, yes. I'm in a little island just off the south of England.
Because there's also Ireland, there's Wales, and if you call a Welshman an Englishman, they don't like that. I learned that the hard way.
You can get yourselves into all sorts of hot water in any part of the British Isles by saying the wrong thing. Yeah,
which I've done plenty of times. And all my friends from Wales go, "Nope, I'm not an Englishman. I'm Welsh." And I'm like, "All right, man, my bad."
Yeah.
But we have an awesome interview today with Lee Williams. We've been looking forward to this all week. We've been prepping. We've been playing a lot of Lee's game. And I'm going to stop yammering. Lee, can you please tell our audience who you are and what we're here to talk about?
Well, I'm Lee Williams, and I was the writer and co-designer of Cryptmaster, which launched last month. Are we in June now? We are, aren't we?
Yes.
Just so last month on May the 9th, which is it's a very difficult one to describe in a few words, but it's a word-based puzzle dungeon crawler.
Yeah, it's a bit like Typing of the Dead is like what drew me to it. I was like,
I think that's a good sort of touch point. A lot of people, that's one of the most common comparisons I think is Typing of the Dead, because it's all of the commands are typed obviously in the game, so it's a good point of reference. But I think it's also we were inspired a lot by sort of old school dungeon crawlers, Eye of the Beholder, Legend of Grimrock, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this game, I think it brought me back to a memory of being in a daycare facility, and there was like these old computers, like huge computers, and I was like, all right, cool. There was a game called Mario Teaches Typing.
Oh right, yes, yeah. I haven't played it. I'm aware of it. That's come up a few times recently as well. Yeah.
So I was like, what is this game? And so I downloaded the demo and immediately shot it over to Brody. I'm like, dude, like you have to like look at this game. And I played the demo, played through it, finished the demo, and I was like, all right, yeah, sold, buy this. Brody plays demo, goes, yep, sold, buys this. We immediately buy this game, and I immersed myself into this game. This game, from the combat to the voice acting to the art style, immediately drew me in, especially the Cryptmaster. And that's kind of where I would really love to start. What inspired himself, and that voice that you do, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's me. It's a tough one to say. I mean, a lot of the voice came from, it's just like voices that I do with my kids and things.
That's
and
awesome.
I think I was saying to somebody else the other day, I've got a long buried sort of thespian side that I've not been able to exercise probably since I was a kid. And I wasn't going to do the voice to begin with. It was just placeholder when we started making the game. And we thought we want this kind of dungeon master character in the game. I just did a bit of placeholder for it, but secretly I really quite wanted to do the voice, so I put more effort into doing the placeholder than I usually would. And luckily Paul took the bait, and when he tried it and he talked about it with his wife, and he got back to me and said, "Oh, actually, we'll I think your voice is quite good. Let's go with your voice for now." So I was secretly quite pleased about that, because I did want to have a go at it. But the voice, I suppose, and the character is, he sort of took on a life of his own. I think once we started doing it, and we were doing it during the first lockdown, and so I was stuck here in this little room, just waffling away into the microphone in weird voices, and it gradually just sort of took over. I suppose I based the voices based on, a lot of people mentioned Vincent Price.
I was going to say that
those sort of actors, which I think were big influences. I wanted him to be not scary. He's sort of one part scary, I guess, but he's spooky in that old B movie tradition, if you like. where it's very very camp, very hammy
Yes.
sort of spookiness. He's not outright scary. So yeah, a lot of old actors like Vincent Price and Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff. Sometimes he does a thing where he goes into a Monster Mash type Karloff type voice, and also a lot of British Amicus and Hammer horror films, from the sort of 60s, 70s. So I suppose those were the biggest influences.
Oh, that's awesome.
What was some of the kind of inspiration for keeping it like a black and white style game? Because the art style is what really grabbed me. I never even actually played the demo. I watched Nick play the demo and
that's right.
instantly bought it because I was like, this looks amazing. I have to get in on this. I don't even care about the demo. I'm just going to jump in. But the art style, I mean, when you're scrolling through Steam and there's a million different games on there, like that black and white, the kind of monogram look to it, like really stands out.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can't take any credit for that. That's Paul, the other the other sort of core developer. Paul did all the coding and the art. He's fantastically talented. And when we did the art, we wanted. I think the whole game in general, a lot of it is we drew from our sort of like formative influences, I guess, from when we were much younger. So for me, it was things like those old B movies and things that I loved, and really old school dungeon crawlers. And for the art, I think we took a lot of inspiration from, or Paul took a lot of inspiration from things like old D&D manuals. It's that kind of ink sketch vibe, and things like, I find one. Fighting fantasy books. I don't know if you had them in the States particularly. I know you had like Choose Your Own Adventure, I think.
Yeah.
A lot like the sort of old school game books, but these were huge over here. Fighting fantasy game books, which had these amazing lurid sort of ink.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Illustrations, again similar to those sort of to like D&D manuals. So that was a lot of the inspiration behind the art style. We wanted it to try and capture some of that feel.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it stands out, and I think combining, I mean, the awesome gameplay and just the brilliant design behind everything, and then the Cryptmaster himself, I mean, I guess, and the art style, it just is this perfect little package of like bringing you back to old school while still being relevant in like modern day, where you do have games that are the fidelity's out of control and crazy, and like, but this still sets itself apart and holds up with everything else that's going on. So I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park on that for sure.
Oh, thank you. That's really much appreciated. It's good to hear that, and especially because we weren't really sure until launch how well it was going to work, because we were aware that it is an odd idea and it was a very personal thing to both of us. So we had quite a few moments of doubt where we'd be like, is this just us just doing something for ourselves, doing something weird for ourselves here that nobody else is going to like or get? Because like you say, it's a mix of different things. It's quite an odd mix of things, but I think we were fortunate in the end that it did seem to, from the responses we've had from people, it's most people get, I think, what we were going for, and it seemed to come together quite well in the end. But a lot of that was, I should probably so I think there's a good dose of luck in that as well, that we threw all these systems together and we weren't always sure, is this going to work or not, and it just sort of fortuitous. It turned out that most things did.
Like the old saying of I'd rather be lucky than good, right? Like, hey, luck plays a huge factor in a bunch of different things, but fortunately, you guys had both things on your side, both luck and just a good package and a good design, and it all. I mean, we're stoked that it's working out for you, and happy to see that your risk on it paid off. So.
No, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much.
Well, I think in like a sea of games right now where this is a shooter, this is an extraction shooter, this is a 5v5 shooter, this is welcome, right? Like, this is a breath of fresh air for a lot of people gaming right now. It's not the same old. It's not the rinse repeat. You don't get a Cryptmaster very often. In the same vein of some other games you've worked on, right? Like Valheim. You don't get a lot of games like that very often nowadays. And so to get this breath of fresh air is amazing. That's what drew me instantly. I was like, okay, this is not like anything else we're playing right now. Like I want to try this, and that's what drew me closer. And then diving deeper into Cryptmaster, you're like, oh, this is full of puzzles, riddles. I still can't figure out the East Library. I'm gonna be 100% right now. That is which I'm gonna probe you after the show about that.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course. The really cryptic ones. I mean, yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
that it is kicking my ass. But all of these mechanics in the game make it fun, right? Like this isn't a game, to me at least, where there's no and there's no barrier here for anybody to play. Like, yeah, if you're not as great at typing, but there's so many things put in place here for people to play. It's accessible, I think, and that's important
Thank
for a
you.
game
Yeah.
like this. Like, it's incredibly important, and you guys nailed it. What was the inspiration for the mechanics behind the game, though? Because like the enemies' names are their health bar. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
How you
Yeah.
level up is words, right? So like per word, that's a skill or a memory. And then if you get those words, which you can get various different ways, which we'll get into, I'm sure. You know, you get a set amount of words and then you level up. You add a letter to your name. Like what was the idea behind these mechanics? Because at first you see it and you're like, that's a lot. And then you're like, no, no, no. This is all like moving so seamlessly and working with itself and really helping to progress everything.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were really fortunate that it worked out. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too modest, though. We did put a lot of work into balancing that as well, and we had a lot of people playing it, and we tweaked all that a lot. But the mechanics I think came about very gradually. We started off making a completely different game. We were making a game about pirates, and you were a pirate captain, and you could the only way you interacted with anything was by shooting it with your pistol, and you would have people come to speak to you, and we thought it was a fun idea. You can shoot everything else. What about if you shot the words in their speech bubbles as well? So they would come up to you and say things, and you would shoot the words out of their speech bubbles to change the meaning of what they were saying. And that was the first time we started doing something where we were involving words particularly. And we thought that was cool, and it was cool, but it wasn't much fun like that. So we started to change it, and then we had a system. We had something where you could take adjectives and nouns off of things in the environment and combine them and add them to other things. And then it made sense for it to be a dungeon crawler. So we flipped from pirates to doing that as a dungeon crawler. And for a long time, we had a system where you would have things like Joro would equip a sword or an axe, and then you would take something like, you would take the word poison from like a DM description of your environment. There's a poison vent here. You take poison and you give him a poison axe, or you're pinching. And that was actually, there was something to that. We could have continued down that route, but again, it wasn't fun. I guess that's been our test all the way through. We thought this is cool and this is novel, but we didn't see how we couldn't get a really fun game out of it. So we kept tweaking along those lines until we ended up with, we were using letters instead of words, and that seemed to work a lot better. And then we had the whole hangman thing, and it got to where it is now. But it was it's hard to say almost where it came from, because it was little step by little step that we did that. But I think once we had the letter system in place, we almost couldn't stop the ideas, because there's so many cool games that you can do with words. So then we thought, well, the chess became like a game of 20 questions, and then there's the sort of Wheel of Fortune in it. And then we thought, hey, what about if the characters' names are their health bars, so you lose a letter from their names? And then obviously, well, the enemy's name should be their health bars as well. And what about if you loot a letter from the enemies? And I remember there was a really, really nice period of a couple of weeks when it was just like a little sort of epiphany. We just realized, oh, this is great. We can use letters for so many things. And we came up with all these ideas, and it just grew from there, really.
It all works so well, and as you like dive into it a little bit further, like the first time I came across the chest, I didn't know I could ask as many questions as I could. So I just kept trying to guess, and it's like, man, I can't figure it out. Like, of course, I didn't realize what was in the chest either. So then, kind of once you figure out what's in the chest, you start to, oh well, it would make sense that this would be there, and then so the way it like all kind of clicks as you play, like without really a tutorial. I mean, there kind of is, but also kind of not, right? It just
Yeah,
of that slow progression.
I'm glad to hear you say that because there is the tutorial is almost like a sort of stealth tutorial, and we an awful lot of work of our work on the game after the first prototype we made. We pitched it around to publishers and showed it to friends and things. We found it wasn't an easy game to teach people the mechanics of, to get them used to what they were supposed to do. So we put a lot of work into, hopefully, it's nice. This is why I say it's nice to hear you say that, so that hopefully people would kind of pick it up without knowing that they were being shown what to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, like we made sure at the beginning that things like, the first chest would feed the right letter. A lot of the chests later on are randomized, but the first chests are very specifically designed to feed you letters that you'll need for your first words, just to get you going, so that people get the hang of it. And we watched lots of people playing it just to see, where the sort of friction points were, where they would get a bit confused. So yeah, we did a lot of work to. We didn't want to do a tutorial, like you say. We didn't want to have like stop the game and big tooltips come up and explain to you must do this, this, and this, because when you start talking about it, this is, like I say, why I can't do an elevator pitch for the game, because it's just it's too complex and silly. And when you start trying to explain it to somebody, well, you've got to do this, you see them glaze over. You've got to get words and fill letters into other words, and it doesn't sound that exciting when you explain it to someone. But when you get them playing it, and if you can show them what to do, it's people seem to enjoy it.
One of the aspects that I find the craziest about a game that's kind of open-ended like this, right, where there is you allow people to type whatever they want, and the amount of times I ran into a situation that you accounted for something that somebody could type that maybe might be off the beaten path, but you guys still accounted for that. I mean, how much work was that to try to think of what the player is going to do in that moment and still make it work in game and make it be like, man, I can't believe they made a reason, or an effect from this thing that they typed or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that was it was a lot of work, but it was fun. That was a fun part as well, I have to say. Just thinking of what people type. I mean, one of the first things, as soon as we knew that we were going to allow players to type words at any point, we said, well, the first thing players are going to do, they're going to type shit. They're just going to see, hey, what will it do if I type this? Because everybody's like, I'm like that. That would be the first thing. I know that's the first thing I'd type. I'd think, you can't help it. It's just like you're back at school again. And you're like, when you first given a dictionary, the first thing you do when you're at school is like, I wonder what words they got in here. So we knew players would do that, and then it was fun to do. It was fun to basically we did a lot of things where we almost encouraged players to do that, because you've got the first altar, and he says, what are you going to do to desecrate it? And pissing on the altar is definitely the number one from watching streamers, pun intended, encountering the first altar. That's what most people seem to do. So it was fun to account for that, and we kind of thought, players will appreciate that. But it was a lot of work, and as I say again, it was mostly me here with a lot of time on my hands and very little social life, just recording heaps and heaps of lines into the microphone for anything that came to mind. And that's the other thing, I said earlier that originally I wasn't going to do the voice, but that was the other nice thing. Well, the really nice thing about me doing the voice was we were able to do that, because if we'd have had a professional voice actor do it, you have to get them in for a session, like a 3 or 4 hour session, and you have all the lines ready. We couldn't have justified the budget, I don't think, but I think it was 4,000 something lines I recorded in the end. And loads of like individual words, because if you type in just a random word, if you type in suddenly my mind's gone blank. I can't think of a single word. If you type in window, there's a window. Yeah. If you type in window, the Cryptmaster will say back to you. He'll say window, and then and then have a null bolted on after that. So it gives players he's not really understanding you, but it gives the impression that he's understanding all these different words. So that was just me reading like reading a dictionary, every word with like a questioning inflection, so that we could use them.
Is that how you accounted for that then? Because there was like a
That's
lot
how
of
we did
things
it.
I would
So
just there was a lot of things I would just type. I mean, the altar, I'm not going to say what I typed, but when he went, oh, the debauchery, and I was like, oh,
I know what you typed. I know what you
yeah.
typed. Filthy,
Yeah.
absolutely filthy.
Well,
Yeah.
he stopped.
It was definitely something I told him to type.
Yeah.
I was like, try it, do it.
Cryptmaster stopped me and he was like, filthy, all my years. I was like, oh, I'm being like disciplined by the Cryptmaster right now. That felt awesome though. It wasn't like, I was like, dude, this is insane. But like, that's how you, because I would just type like random words like cat, dog, pet, sound, anything, right? And like, if Cryptmaster was confused, he'd be like, sound. And I was like, whoa, like, how is this character accounting for all of this?
It literally was really just me, like I say, with a lot of time on my hands recording stuff. But I think, mind you, I think what we did that helped, there's a system in the game which is I compare sometimes to like a coin sorter, where when you input a word, like dropping a coin in, and first of all the game will check to see, is there a specific thing a mechanical thing this word does? Is it hit, for example? And then it triggers Joro's skill hit. If it's not, it slides down the other way, and then there's another check. Is this word one for which there is a specific recorded line response for this specific word? If there is, it plays that. If there isn't, it drops down this way, and then it checks to see, is this word in one of a number of these categories? And there's a heap of categories. There's like is it in the pool for animal names? Is it in the pool for food, for drink, for jobs, for weapons, for spooky words, for verbs, for adjectives? There's a whole bunch of different big pools of words. If it's in one of those, it will play specifically a null for that. So if it's the word doctor, and it finds out, it's in the pool for words which are professions, then it will, if it's got that word as a dictionary word, it will play that. So the Cryptmaster will say doctor, and then it will play a null from that pool, which will be something like, are you thinking of a change in career, or something like that. So it tricks you into thinking, he not only did he know it was the word doctor, but he knows it's a profession as well. So there's a lot of those. And then if it's not in any of those categories, then it will play a random. We've got a bunch of generic nulls as well, where he just says, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Has your jaw become unhinged or whatever? And there's another little trick he'll sometimes do there, where sometimes if it's a short word and he doesn't recognize it, he'll spell it out. So if you type in like ERD or something, he'll say ERD, what do you mean?
Okay.
So it's all sort of smoke and mirrors, but we were really pleased with how well it worked out, because I think it does feel quite immersive. And the loveliest thing for me has been watching people stream the game and play the game, and kind of argue with the Cryptmaster and banter with him while they're playing, because they'll be typing in words to guess and he'll be berating them, and they'll be saying, oh, fuck off, why, I'm just trying to guess the word. So that's really satisfying.
It was, I know I feel like I'm just like completely pumping it up all the time, which rightfully so, but it had to have been flattering to see some of the articles come out of like, no, this game was made with AI, and then, of course it wasn't. Like, that has to be flattering to see where people are talking about it, and like, it's so cleverly designed, it has to be AI that is taking care of all of this, because you guys accounted for so much. Like, that's, to me, is insane. And seeing it and kind of, especially now talking to you and how you guys designed that system to where it, the coin slot type of situation, it's very impressive. It really is.
It was kind of flattering to get those comments and those comparisons. That's right. I think people didn't expect that there was anybody kind of dumb enough to sit and record all those things by themselves by hand. So I think it surprised a lot of people, and I still see a lot of comments, people asking, is it done with AI or not?
I mean, that's
No, just 3 years of voice recording.
Yeah, exactly. It was
and clever
a long
planning.
time.
Yeah.
As I say, it was during the sort of lockdowns, a lot of the early development period. So it was just me in here, and my kids occasionally knocking on the door. Are you all right in there, Dad? They can hear
No.
me, aardvark, abacus, and I'm just working my way through the dictionary in a weird voice.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's simply because when I first loaded up the game and I was going through it, that's immediately what went in my mind. Because the rise of AI in the industry right now is, we don't have to get into our opinions necessarily, but it's there. And I'm like, I really hope this isn't this. And then the more I played, I'm like, no, this doesn't feel at all like this. This feels like, again, like you were sitting there painstakingly saying "Aardvark" and like all like everything that you're describing. Like, no, this is literally someone doing this, and like, and it checks out now because I'm like, yeah, like there's no this phenomenal work there, and I know we're really pumping it up, and it, like Brody said, but deservedly so. You brought up the lockdowns, and I wanted to ask you. I think Brody wanted to ask you too. Like with that, what were the challenges to create a game like this during those lockdowns, and did it help you with your mental state to dive deep into the Cryptmaster himself, or Joro, Sin, Maz, and Nyx? Like, did that help you guys to create this world?
I think it did actually, and for myself, and I always feel a bit guilty saying this because I know an awful lot of people didn't have very positive experience, obviously, during lockdown. But I was lucky here. We were on the edge of the countryside. We're out in the sticks, and my boys were at a lovely age. And when the lockdown came along, as I said, we're not claustrophobic because we can go outdoors. I'm in the middle of nowhere very easily, and so we had quite an idyllic sort of lockdown, really. And I'd just given up because I was a teacher previously, so I'd just given up. I'd been doing games writing as a kind of sideline for a long time, but I just made the decision to go full time. So I was working remotely from home full time. The core team was just me and Paul when we were making the prototype. It was just the two of us. Paul's over in New Zealand on the opposite side of the world to me. We've literally, like when it's 4 a.m. here, it's 4 p.m. for him. So we were working remotely with each other anyway. And because of lockdown, we could keep odd hours, and we could just work on it at our own pace, which was really nice. We had a couple of years where 1 year really making the full prototype, when we could we would just chat each day and bounce ideas off each other, and then I had loads of time on my hands to just record things and play around with things. So for us, as I say, I feel bad saying the lockdown was pleasant for me, because obviously not for many, it wasn't for most people, but it helped the making of the game, I have to say, because the environment that it created was really beneficial to what we were doing. And I think we felt there wasn't pressure on us, as there might have been at other times, to come up with something really quickly. We didn't have the as well as anything else, we didn't have the financial pressure at that time. We've always got a certain degree of it, but we felt we had a little period of grace where we could just experiment with weirder things than we might usually feel we were going to do. So yeah, I think it did probably contribute a lot to the development, that sort of environment that time.
Kind of bouncing off of that too, I wanted to ask you, like, with Paul being over in New Zealand, you being in England, and then you also worked alongside Acapara.
Yes, yeah, and they're in California. So
and they're in California. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
how on earth do you go about first off, at my job, working with people in the same hours we struggle, right? I can't even imagine trying to work alongside people on completely opposite sides of the world and trying to develop a game. I mean, what's that process really like?
It's it has challenges sometimes, but generally speaking, it seems to. I mean, it helps that Paul doesn't seem to sleep. I was saying to somebody the other day, I don't know when he sleeps, because he's all. If I send him a message, I usually get a reply within like half an hour or an hour. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've joked with him before. I think he's like a vampire or something, because He doesn't seem to keep normal sleeping hours. But but it's just been quite relaxed, really. We just Paul and I we just leave each other messages, and then when we're both around at the same time, we'll have a call and go through things. But it's been really between the two of us, at least, the development has been really. We're both quite driven in our ways, and and I guess it helps that we don't overlap much with Paul. All the art is Paul. The coding is Paul. I can't call it coding, but I'm allowed. He allows me into the build to do bits of the scripting for conversations and things. But basically, that's all his side. My side is the writing and the voice work, and then the area where we cross over is the design. And we did that collaboratively. But we've worked together on and off for quite a few years now, so we've got a good relationship going there, and we're both quite blunt with each other as well when we don't think something's working. So we had a lot of, but we're equally, we've been doing it for a while. We're quite thick-skinned, so we're not too sort of precious about our own ideas. If something's not working, both of us are we'll chuck it out, and we're both happy to admit we were wrong. So I think we've got a nice working relationship there. And with Akapara, Akapara have been fantastic. I can't say enough nice things about David and all the team at Akapara. They've just been really supportive, and once they picked up the game, they more or less just said to us that we really like what you're doing. We think this is great. It's weird, but in the nicest way. And just tell us what you want. Just carry on with it, and obviously within reason, let us know what we can do to help you. And they helped us with people like Catton and Cena, who did a lot of the voice coordination and the sound. We had a couple of additional artists, Marlo and Luca, who were fantastic for some of the character art, and so they were just brilliant. They just kind of gave us free reign, more or less, and just said, let us know when you need stuff. And then the third member of the core team is Surashu, who is amazing, really talented. He did all the music for the game. We've worked with him before. He did the music for Steven Universe and things like that in the past, so he's really experienced, and the music he did, I think, is phenomenal. Really just lifted the atmosphere of the whole thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, everything involved with this game, like from you, Paul, Akapura, and everyone else there, like, it seems like this is the type of game that really needed every last puzzle piece to fit, right? Like, with everything going on in the background of this game. And it just does. The art complements the sound design. The music complements the art and the puzzles and everything, right? It just all just goes together so flawlessly, in my opinion. What helped inspire a lot of the game within the game, right? Like the design of the story. Like, you're going up. That's the thing. Like, you four are going back to the living world, right? Each layer is different in its own special way that also brings in special mechanics, i.e. bug collecting. Loved that. And man, the souls were amazing. Like, gathering those souls to then, if I was in a bind, I'd have to use Soothe to heal all my guys after, and I'm like, oh shit, all of my souls are gone and I'm screwed now, and I can't buy this card for the card game, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So what helped inspire all those different things right there as well? Because for me, when I really want to touch on whatever as well, because when I started playing whatever, that's what I was spending a lot of my time in the game. Like, I have 30 hours in the game now, because I would just get stuck on playing whatever. Because it was like, when I played The Witcher, I played a lot of Gwent. And then they came out with Gwent, the standalone, and I was like, oh, dude, sick. But whatever, I was just like, I want to kick the shit out of everybody. I want your card. I want your card. And I would just get my ass beat later on. But what helped inspire all that, man? Like, it's just going up. It's like a Dante's Inferno-esque type thing. And then from the fishing to whatever and the bug collecting. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot, but
yeah, no, it's. I think. I mean, they all came from the same sort of process. I think. I think the first time when we first decided we wanted the characters to be zombies, and we came up with the whole angle of having the Cryptmaster, who he was originally going to be just like a tutorial device. The Cryptmaster was just going to pop up. I don't know if you ever played there was an old VHS board game called Atmosphere, and you played like a VHS cassette where you were playing a game, and every now and then somebody would there'd be a thunderclap, and someone would pop up on the screen and give you instructions for what to do next. But really, the Cryptmaster was originally, we just thought we need somebody to tell you what to do. So hey, why don't we have it like an Atmosphere? He just looms up all of a sudden and shouts at you, and we just do that now and then. And then he took on a life of his own. He became more complex. But when we first decided, I think that we wanted to do that, and we wanted the players to be undead, was when we couldn't let players type whatever they wanted, because we can't pass grammar and things in the game. That was beyond our scope. So we thought, well, you're only going to be able to type one word at a time. And then I remember thinking, well, a fun way to do that would be, let's say the players are zombies, so they just speak in monosyllables, boot, yell, and things. So they're not, that justifies why they only say one word. And when we had that, and we had the Cryptmaster, and then we had this whole idea of, well, maybe it's a sort of it's like a dungeon crawler in reverse. You're not going down into a dungeon to get something. You're like the bad guys almost, and you're coming out of the dungeon to get something. So once we hit on that, and then as you say, when we developed, we thought, well, nice basic structure for the game will be you just have these sort of strata of layers climbing up to the surface. The fishing and the card game came about more or less, I think, just because once it started growing in scope and we realized we sort of had an RPG on our hands, which we hadn't started making it in that way, but it just kind of grew, and we said, hang on, we've got like an RPG now. And then we said, well, if it's an RPG, it should have fishing and it should have cards. It just as a sort of running joke, like that's what you do in an RPG. So we put the fishing in. The card game, Paul was great. He balanced all that out, whatever. And that's been a surprise, like a real surprise success, I think, for us, from watching people playing it, how popular that is. And it is, I have to say, and I can say this without boasting too much, because as I say, Paul did most of the balancing work on whatever. I really enjoy it myself. I've been playing quite a bit of that just lately. I was sort of inspired by seeing people really getting into it on streams, and I thought I should go back and try this myself, play whatever a bit more. And it is really enjoyable. You'll be pleased to know that hopefully soon we're planning at the moment. We would like to do a fairly small update, but what we would really like to do in an update soon is spend a bit more time on whatever, in fact, and maybe have a location where you could play like tournament type games and play against so a little bit more sort of RNG. So you've got just all kinds of random opponents you might want to play. So if you want to, you can just hang out in a tavern and play whatever to your heart's content. So that's hopefully what we're looking at introducing fairly soon.
Nick looks like a kid on Christmas right now. He's so excited.
I have the biggest, stupidest smile in the world, because I was about to ask, is there any ideas to create a standalone whatever game, right? But that, I guess that answers my question to a degree.
Yeah, we've talked about that as well. We've talked about the possibility of doing a standalone. I won't rule it out. I don't know what we're doing at the moment, really. We've just been kind of recovering from the launch and the first couple of patches and fielding questions and so on. So we've only really just earlier today, in fact, Paul and I had a long chat about what we're going to do next. And we don't know was the result of the chat. We still don't know, but we're talking about it at the moment. So we're that, and that's one of the things that we have wondered about. Maybe something like that.
So, I'm going off of one article I found about you specifically here, right? So, yeah. You have a very interesting past in video games. From what I found, you've worked on obviously Cryptmaster, you worked on Valheim, you worked on Return of the Obra Dinn, and a little bit of Fall Guys. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had an odd past, and as I say, and it's only fairly recently that I've gone into working in video games full time. I did heaps of things in the past. I was a labourer, I was a security guard, I was a tour guide. I lived in China for 5 years. I was a teacher. I taught special education. That was my career for a good decade, and I did video games on the side. Some of Obra Dinn, I was really lucky that many years ago when I first started writing, like doing bits of writing for indie games, the TIG forums at the time were really big. Notch had developed Minecraft with the devlog on those forums and things, so they were like a really interesting place to be. Maybe 15 years ago now, actually. And some of the first people I met there were Paul, who I did a little bit of writing for a game he was working on at the time. So that's when I first collaborated with Paul. Some other people I worked with, Alan, and made Spirits of Xanadu with, who's fantastic. Richard, who ended up making Valheim, I've met him at the same time as well. And I got friendly with Lucas Pope as well, and was really honoured to test Papers, Please, when he was developing that. So that was great. And then I can't really take any credit at all whatsoever for Return of the Obra Dinn. That was all Lucas. Has got his own very, very singular vision, so that's all him. But he did ask me to come in and I did like a language consultant, I think I'm credited as. So I just went through, he knew that I'd written a lot of historical fiction and things in the past. And obviously coming from the UK, I had a better handle on like UK accents and things than he did. So I just went through a lot of the dialogue and suggested revisions to make it fit the period and fit the place as well. The places that different characters came from. But it was really exciting ones. I mean, I love his games, and so it's been really exciting to have been involved, with them in any capacity.
So I gotta ask, what was your involvement with Fall Guys then?
Oh, and Fall Guys.
The rest of them I can track it. I'm like, that makes sense, makes sense. Fall Guys, not really a story. Or
that's the odd one out, isn't it? I guess that's kind of the odd one out. That was a lot of fun. Well, that came about because I worked like freelance as a writer on a contract, doing some writing for PC Building Simulator, and the sequel to that, which was it might sound like that's really dry. And I remember when I was approached for it to start with, I thought, I don't know how much writing is going to be involved in like a game about building PCs. But actually, it was one of the most fun jobs I've had, because the brief was essentially, I don't know if you've ever played it, but you run like a PC. You played it, like a PC repair shop, and you get all these weird emails from people asking you to fix their PCs. But for it was PC Building Simulator 2 I worked on particularly. And the brief was really just write a load of funny, goofy emails from like weird characters who want you to fix their PCs. And you just had free reign, because I can have a character who's somebody can write to you and they're a spy and they want you to fix their the PC that they're using to hack into something, or they write to you and they're I don't know, they're a gangster, or they're a struggling artist, or they're we just had free reign to sort of do anything, because it's all text, so you can more or less do what you want. So that was a really lovely little, it was like just like having constant, like lots of little writing exercises almost. So it was a really fun job. But sorry, I'm waffling a bit now.
No, you're fine.
What came about from that was that the people I worked with on that, then that was Irregular, who were then taken over by Epic, and so they were moved on to a lot of different projects. Mediatonic, sorry, and because of the work I did on PC Building Simulator 2, they got me in to do some of the writing on Fall Guys as well, which was really just in Fall Guys. It's like it was naming costumes mostly. So when you buy different costumes in Fall Guys, there's a fair chance that I named that costume. So that was the extent of my work on Fall Guys, but it was fun.
Right.
And here I was hoping you were doing the voices of the little bean men.
Oh, I would have loved that. If they'd asked me, I would have been up for it.
From Cryptmaster or from the little bean men to Cryptmaster, I can see it. It's great.
Well, with everything you did on PC Simulator 2 and the humor that's involved there with those emails, did that at all transfer into the humor for Cryptmaster? Because Cryptmaster is very awesome. Like the humor is important to drive everything, right? The Cryptmaster himself has this very awesome dark humor about him. Did that at all help inspire the humor for Cryptmaster?
I guess it did. Yeah, I think I've always, not in everything. I mean, in some I love, for example, the writing I did in Valheim is all inspired by like Norse mythology and folklore and so on. I wanted the rune stones to have that feel to them, so that's much more serious. But I do, generally speaking, I like writing comedy. Probably most of the things I write ended up falling into more on the comic side. So I think it did, yeah. And Cryptmaster, I mean, originally when we were starting to make it, we had a whole discussion about, you know, what mood are we aiming for here. But I think we quickly realised that we can't do this with a straight face. Almost, it's you know, we thought we could make it as a proper scary game, but it just the whole concept of using words for everything and letters for everything is just inherently too goofy to you couldn't really do a real horror game with all that nonsense going on. So so we thought, well, it's gonna have to have a comic slant to it. And then the character of the Cryptmaster himself, I think, was sort of fundamental in creating that comic mood. And one thing I've been really pleased by the response, because I worried a lot beforehand. I thought people might hate the Cryptmaster. I worried that people are just going to think, you know, I didn't buy a video game to have somebody just, you know, take the piss out of me and you know, yell at me all the time. You know, why would you? And so I did worry. I thought people are just might just find him annoying, or they might find him like too aggressive, but actually people love it. And the first time he insults them, like in the opening bit when I watch people play it, and there's the opening moment where he asks you to type something, and then before you can finish typing it, he interrupts you and says, actually, I don't care. I don't care what you're saying. And it's really nice to see. It's a lovely moment watching players kind of go, what? You know, they have that little moment of shock. Did he just do that? Did he just like ask me to do something and then just disregard it? And people in general overwhelmingly seem to they get it, and they enjoy that. And if anything, I was saying to somebody yesterday, I think I should maybe have made him ruder. I think I could have made him, I could have even made him ruder, and people would have liked it. So I didn't need to worry about that so much. I think part of that though is that comes from the fact that the Cryptmaster himself is a bit of an idiot. He pretends, he's very pompous. He pretends like he knows everything and he's guiding you to the surface and he's all powerful. Actually, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing at all. He's bumbling and he's silly and he gets things wrong. And so if he'd have seemed really superior, then I think it would have rankled people a bit. But the point of it is that he's not all that, you know. He thinks he's great, but he isn't really, and he gets things wrong all the time in the game and shows himself up, and he's more of a sort of figure of fun in many ways.
He's a great mascot for the game. I see you're about to ask a question, but I need to ask, Lee, are you afraid of chickens? Is that like a you fear, or is that?
No, I love chickens. Actually, I love chickens. I've been around farms for many years. I'm quite happy with chickens. I honestly don't know why the Cryptmaster is scared of chickens.
Every time there's a chicken in whatever zone I'm in, get it away. I'm like, what? Why is he so afraid? Or like the first chest where it's like chicken, I believe. He's like, oh. I remember those. I'm like, chicken? Like, after, like, I was like, oh, that definitely should say chicken, I think. He's like, ugh. I'm like, okay. Keep going, and there's chickens in the map of the zone I'm in. And, like, just out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to go to the altar. Get it away. And I'm like, whoever is doing Cryptmaster, he must be afraid or hate chickens.
Yeah, no, you would think so. But no, I'm quite fond of chickens. When we did the first chest, I don't really know why. I wish I had a better answer for this, actually. But when we did the first chest with a chicken in it, I knew I had a whole list of words, things I wanted to put in chest. So I came to record the one for chicken, and I was thinking, how can you describe a chicken? And he just, like I said, he sort of took on a life of his own a bit sometimes, the Cryptmaster. So when he described it, and I think he said, "Oh, it's got a tiny head. I hate it." And it just came out really, and then I thought, oh yeah, that's a nice angle. Actually, maybe he really hates chickens. And then after that, I think Paul said, oh, why don't we'll scatter some chickens around the town as well, and then you can grumble whenever he goes near them. So it was just, that was just like a happy accident, I think.
Awesome.
Did you ever find yourself accidentally talking in the Cryptmaster's voice to like your family, your kids, or something while you're recording thousands upon thousands of lines?
I do, but I'm banned. My wife is banned banned me from using the Cryptmaster voice around the house. My kids like it. My kids quite like it. But if I go near my wife with the Cryptmaster voice, she's like, "No, now stop."
Only Lee is
Enough
allowed
of
in this
that.
house, not him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
keep that
He's
necromancer
not
out of
coming.
here.
He is not coming anywhere near me. She will say. Yeah.
Oh man.
So right now you guys teamed up with the Yeti to do some merch, and right now
Yes.
I believe there's a shirt, a pin, and a map poster.
There is, yeah. I'm waiting for mine still. I've ordered mine, and hopefully they'll arrive soon. The map looks awesome.
I will be ordering that map ASAP.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
going right behind on that wall.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Mine too. Mine. I've got mine maybe on the door or on the wall next to it. Yeah, I've got a little space left for it.
You guys plan on doing some more merch, whether it be with the Yeti or anybody else, or what's your
I'm
plans
not
there?
sure. I think Akupara, the publishers, are talking about a couple more things, but I'm honestly not sure yet. I've not really been involved very much in that side of it.
I have an idea. Hear me out. And I know a
Go
guy.
for it. Go for it.
And
Yeah,
I
go for
promise
it.
I know a guy. Cryptmaster puppet.
Oh, that would be. Do you mean like a hand puppet or a string
Yes.
puppet?
Hand puppet.
A hand puppet would be lovely.
I got the Vortigaunt right there.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and I
see
got
him.
Gordon right there, and then I have a combine.
Right.
I know a guy who makes puppets. A Cryptmaster
Really?
puppet would be insane.
A Cryptmaster puppet would be amazing. I
I'll
would
link
love
you up
that.
after the show.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
yes.
please. Yeah,
Oh,
honestly, yeah.
if-
I would. Yeah, I would love that. I would. I fear for my sanity a little bit though if I was here with a Cryptmaster puppet talking to myself.
I think your wife would go, that Yank that you talked to that introduced you to the puppet guy, I
Yeah.
hate him.
She would not be happy
Never
with you.
again.
She wouldn't. No, she would not be happy with you at all.
The other thing I thought about, I actually posted it on the WASD thing. I was like, man, like a Cryptmaster, like just more like, for me, physical media is important. I love my big box PC games. I got them over there. I got my books. I was like looking at them like, dude, could you imagine a Cryptmaster big box, like an old school big box PC display? Do you guys have any? I know you're not working directly, but is there any thoughts to like the merchandise you would like to see for Cryptmaster? Like I said, the puppet would be insane. A big box would be insane. But is there anything else that you would love to see from this character? Because he's kind of your mascot at this point, no?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I'm amazed at all the sort of merchandise items that are. It's just I can't say what a thrill it is. You know, when you've created a character, to see that character on a t-shirt or on a badge even, or it really is. So all of it just bowls me over really. It's such a lovely feeling. I don't know. Puppet is the best one I've heard actually. I think I would be very keen on a Cryptmaster puppet.
Awesome.
But I don't know what other merchandise. I don't know what other merchandise it sort of lends itself to really.
Definitely posters, t-shirts, things like of that nature. Like I said,
T-shirts
anything
and stuff,
physical, I think, for this. Because if you look on the Cryptmaster's Twitter, that character lends himself perfectly to social media.
He's fun. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing the posts on Twitter because he's a fun character to use like that. Yeah.
The Twilight reading, I was like, this is awesome. I was in my work truck and I just like I had my phone up and I was like, oh, Cryptmaster's gonna read Twilight, and click headphones. I'm like, this is good. The character lends himself to all of that perfectly.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun to do. That was another one that concerned my wife slightly. She heard me in here doing that. Like, what are you doing in there? Are you reading Twilight? Yes, I am reading Twilight in the Cryptmaster's voice. Did anybody ask you to do that? No, I just
decided that's what we're doing today.
I think the way you guys have really approached just marketing and social media in general, like utilizing the Cryptmaster and his kind of snarky and a slightly pompous, but like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, he's kind of an idiot, right? So having that and utilizing that on social media has been awesome. I mean, like the first time we posted something about the game, we got you or Paul or somebody was in there right away and kind of threw a little bit of like, I'm pretty sure the first one right off the get go was like just some humor right off the bat, and then like we would keep posting things, and you guys would keep showing up, and we're like, you know what, we're gonna reach out to them first, but also the way you guys are handling social media in general is amazing, and just leaning in on that character and really utilizing him to, I mean, even breathe life outside of the game is really awesome. So I do commend you for that for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, it's fun. I'll be honest, it's quite fun doing that. And we found, I mean, within the sort of little like indie games bubble on Twitter, it's quite a nice community. People, indie devs are very supportive of each other, and people that are into indie games and so on, and like yourselves, people that do podcasts and things. It's generally a really positive atmosphere, and it's lovely to engage with people and talk to people who are enjoying the game. It's been a pleasure to do that, really.
I gotta ask. So is there? I know you guys are still kind of recovering from the launch and everything, but I mean, do you plan on maybe going for like a Cryptmaster 2, or do you plan on staying in the same space, or do you have any plans at this point? I guess.
Yeah, I think, as I said, we had a long chat today, and we didn't figure anything out particularly. We'd love to do another Cryptmaster. I'd like to do a prequel, ideally, with like the story of the four characters, and do sort of a prequel to. But we want to, if we do it, we will want to do it right. We wouldn't want to rush into it without having the budget or the time to make it the game we wanted to. We don't want to do just like a
shoehorn in.
Just shoehorn in off the back of Cryptmaster. We would want it to feel like a real progression from Cryptmaster. And there's lots of things we've learned from the experience of making this game. So we would love to do that, but as I say, we're very aware we would want to do it under the right circumstances. We would want to make it the game that we know it could be, that we would like to do. So I can't say if and when that's on the cards, but I can say that both Paul and I we've still got a bunch of ideas for the world and for the characters. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get to do that. But whatever we do, I think we're both. I think we're in the same space, as you put it. I think definitely. I think we've both of us we've worked on like quite big games previously. Paul even more than I have, for big studios, where you're like you're a small cog in a big machine, so to speak. I think we much prefer this. If we can justify it financially and feed our families, then we much prefer doing these kind of smaller, weirder games. It's what we love, really. So hopefully, I mean, a win for us is being able to just like make the next thing, and it's always one of the most exciting times, I think, is when you're starting on a project and you can just throw things around and come up with crazy ideas.
Well, I think you guys have created something incredibly special and important right now. I've mentioned it probably a million times in this interview, but this was a breath of fresh air. This is what I think a lot of people really needed. And to know exactly where you guys stand on this, where you guys were coming from while making this game, trials and tribulations that you guys had, this game is important. It couldn't have come out at a better time. And I think it was needed for a lot of people, including myself and Brody. We need more games like Cryptmaster. I think they're important. Like, you don't get this a lot. And for it to be coming out in 2024, again, where the market is oversaturated with a lot of the same games.
Yeah.
And then you see this, right? And it's just one of those moments. It's like, oh man, you guys got something. It's not just, like lightning in a jar. This is like, no. This is its own thing. And like to know that there's a potential to expand, to go back, because you guys can go anywhere you want with Cryptmaster. You could go back.
Yeah.
You could go forward. You can see where Jaro and everybody else are at, and it's amazing. And I really appreciate you guys creating this game. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show Right now, Cryptmaster sits at overwhelmingly positive on Steam with 568 reviews. And you guys can all go get Cryptmaster right now on Steam for $24.99. I highly recommend everybody listening to this interview gets it. You will love it in some sort of way. It's gonna make it's. Thank you so much, Lee, for being on.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Thanks very much for all your encouragement, the support. You know, we really do appreciate it.
Is there anything else regarding Cryptmaster you wanted just to tell our audience before we sign off and let you get back to being with your wife and kids?
I don't think so, really. I just, other than to say, you know, thank you to everybody who has, you know, supported the game. It does, you know, it means a huge amount to us. And it's been, yeah, the launch has been, it's been fantastic just to see people enjoying it. You know, that was what we wanted above all. We wanted to create something that we thought people would find fresh and interesting and fun, you know, above all. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Brody, is there anything else you wanted to leave off on? Or
I think you fairly or pretty much covered it all. I mean, I just thank you, Lee, for taking the time to hop on here, especially working with us on time zones and scheduling and everything else. I mean,
I'm used to that. I get
Yeah.
working with all sorts of time zones. Yeah.
But no, we really appreciate it, and you know, if anybody was on the fence about this, definitely go pick it up. I mean, $24.99. It definitely worth your time, definitely worth your effort, and there's a lot of love behind this game, and you know, we're honored to have you here and to be able to dive into it a little bit deeper and kind of get a little bit more of the backstory on it and everything. And it truly is something special. Like Nick said, you know, it's not just this lightning in a bottle type of situation. It truly is, you know, hopefully setting you guys up to do more in this space, and in a world where it seems like every game is a Metroidvania like or a Souls like, or you know, everything seems samey sometimes. Having a truly original idea. I mean, yeah, some things that have been kind of not lifted but
Explored.
inspired by other games. I mean, I think you guys put it together in a package that is truly unique and a really original idea that is very, very rare these days anymore. And it's truly hats off to you guys.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Yeah.
we love it so much we don't even want to let you go, man. and we're not done here because I do need to know about the East Library, but we'll talk about that off air. Thank you again, Lee.
I can fill you in on that. Yeah.
Everybody, please go get Cryptmaster. Check it out. The demo is up on Steam right now. Don't sleep on this. This is a very important game that I think you all will love. We'll see you guys next week, where we dive into Whale Stork's game, hopefully a little bit. There's a lot to talk about. And until next week, guys, take it easy and be safe.